Have you ever come across something that completely shattered everything you believed to be true? Not just a surprise or a twist, but a moment so powerful it rewrote your entire understanding of your past. This story begins with a letter, old, untouched, forgotten in a drawer for years. But this wasn't just any letter. It was the truth, my truth, and I didn't even know it was about me until it was too late. They say time heals all wounds, but what happens when time buries the truth so deep that by the time you uncover it, everything has already changed? When I opened that envelope, something shifted inside me. It felt like looking in a mirror I never knew existed. Have you ever had that feeling? Like something in your life has always been off, like you were missing a piece. Something small, silent, but essential. A sign, a message, a hidden reality just waiting to be found. If you've ever felt invisible, overlooked, like your story never really mattered, this video is for you. Because this isn't just my story. It's our story. This is about the things that get left unsaid, the feelings we hide, the words we never get to hear until it's too late. We live our lives believing we know who we are. But sometimes the truth has been waiting for us in the background, written, buried, waiting for the right moment to be seen. I wasn't ready for what I read. I wasn't prepared to see myself reflected in the words of someone I thought had long forgotten me, someone I believed had moved on. But the letter remembered. It remembered every detail, every moment, every scar, and it told a version of my life that I never knew existed. It's strange how pain leaves clues. We ignore them, we step over them, we pretend they're not there. Until one day, every clue leads you to one undeniable truth. You were part of something you didn't even realize was about you. That's when I realized the letter wasn't written to someone else. It was about someone, and that someone was me. Right now, you're not just watching another video. This isn't just a story. This is a wake-up call, a moment of transformation. Because once you hear what I'm about to share, you may never see your own past the same way again. This is about what's hidden in plain sight. This is about how quantum energy, memory, and timing all collide to reveal what was always meant for us. Maybe you were meant to see this right now. Maybe the algorithm didn't bring you here by accident. You think you know your story. But what if you've been walking past the truth your entire life? What if the moment that reveals who you really are is already here, and all it takes is one sentence, one realization, one moment of clarity? Before we go any further, I want to know something. Have you ever discovered something far too late? Something you wish you had seen earlier, when it could have made a difference? If you have, leave a simple yes in the comments, because I know I'm not the only one. And today, we're not just watching. We're remembering. We're rewriting. This is just the beginning. It was a quiet afternoon, the kind of silence that feels heavier than sound itself. The air was thick with dust, the smell of old paper and wood mixing into something almost sacred. I was cleaning out the attic, sorting through forgotten boxes when I found it, a small envelope hidden beneath years of untouched memories. The paper was yellowed, fragile, and the handwriting on the front stopped me cold. It was familiar, painfully familiar. My name was written there, but the ink had faded, like time had tried to erase it. My heart started pounding, that strange rhythm that comes when something inside you already knows life is about to shift. I held the letter in my hands, running my fingers over its rough edges, feeling the pulse of something I didn't understand yet. It felt alive, like it was waiting to be opened, waiting to speak after all this time. There's something strange about forgotten things. They don't really disappear. They just wait for the right moment to be found. I could almost feel the weight of the past pressing against that envelope. The attic smelled like dust and lost years. But beneath that, there was something else. Something electric, like energy humming beneath the silence. It was a carta secreta, a hidden letter meant to stay buried, and yet somehow it had found its way back to me. When I finally tore it open, the sound was louder than it should have been, like it echoed through every year that had passed since it was written. Inside were pages that trembled in my hands, words that seemed to carry heat. The first line wasn't even a full sentence, just fragments, pieces of emotion written in a rush. I didn't understand all of it, but I knew it wasn't just a message. It was a confession. My throat tightened, and my fingers hesitated to turn the page. There's something terrifying about truth, especially when it's been hiding this long. The paper smelled faintly of perfume, faded but still there, a ghostly reminder of whoever had written it. It was as if time had preserved her voice, her heartbeat, her silence. I read a few lines. enough to know this wasn't just a memory. It was a revelation. A verdade occulta, something someone had wanted me to find, but not too soon. I could feel guilt rising inside me, though I didn't yet know why. Maybe it was because deep down, I sensed what this was about. Maybe part of me already knew the story was mine. Every sentence felt like a whisper from the past, calling me by name without saying it. I could almost hear her voice as I read, soft, steady, but filled with a pain that had lived too long in the dark. I stopped reading halfway through. I couldn't breathe. The room felt smaller, the air heavier, as if the walls themselves were listening. Why now? Why had this letter stayed hidden for so many years? And why did it feel like it had been waiting for this exact moment? For me, now. My hands shook as I placed the letter down, afraid of what the next line might reveal. Por que nunca me mostraram isso? I whispered to no one. Why hadn't anyone told me? Somewhere inside, I knew the answer, but I wasn't ready to face it. Not yet. I sat there for what felt like hours, staring at the half-opened letter, knowing there was more, something deeper, something that could change everything I thought I knew about my life, about her, about me. Have you ever felt that pull? The fear of knowing too much and yet the need to keep going, to see what's behind the next word, because that's where I was, trapped between the comfort of ignorance and the danger of truth. The letter wasn't finished, and neither was the story. And if you want me to show you what came next, if you want to see the part that changed everything, let me know. Comment, I want to see. And we'll keep reading together, because the next part, that's where everything begins to unravel. I kept staring at the letter, unable to move, like if I opened it fully, my world would shift in a way I couldn't control. But the truth is, it already had. The few lines I'd read had cracked something open inside me, and in that silence, surrounded by dust and forgotten things, my mind began to rewind itself. Images, sounds, fragments of the past started playing behind my eyes. Moments I had brushed off, memories I had buried under the noise of everyday life. They all came back, clearer now, sharper, like pieces of a puzzle that had been scattered for years finally falling into place. There was that afternoon years ago, when she hugged me just a little tighter than usual, but I had pulled away too quickly, distracted by work, by deadlines, by things that didn't matter, and the way she used to pause before speaking, almost as if deciding whether or not she should say what was really on her mind. The hesitation I never questioned, the long stares she gave me when she thought I wasn't looking, the gentle sadness in her smile. They weren't just small moments. They were messages I didn't understand at the time. But now, after reading those words, those raw, unfinished, emotionally loaded words, they screamed with clarity. That's what hit me the hardest. The revelation that what felt random, disconnected, maybe even meaningless back then, had always carried something deeper. There was a hidden thread running through it all, a secret rhythm behind the silence. The letter didn't just give me answers, it reframed my entire past. And for the first time, I began to see my life differently. I started asking questions I never thought to ask, not just about her, but about me. Who had I been in her story? And why hadn't I seen any of this? It's strange how the truth works. It doesn't arrive all at once. It comes in waves, in echoes, in flashes of memory that now refuse to be ignored. I remembered a night we sat in the car, and she kept staring at the sky, quiet. I remember thinking she looked peaceful. But now I realized she was trying to say goodbye, not out loud, but in her own way. She knew something I didn't, and the letter held the words she never had the courage, or maybe the time, to say. That's what made it a vida marcada, a life shaped by moments that made sense only too late, and it hurt. The understanding didn't come as relief, it came as pain, a slow burning ache in my chest that grew stronger with each memory resurfacing. Why didn't I see this before? I kept asking myself. Why didn't I listen closer? Why didn't I look deeper? Have you ever felt that way? Like life was trying to show you something all along, and you only understood once the moment had passed? That kind of sentido oculto doesn't whisper, it haunts, and it changes everything. That letter wasn't just a message, it was a key to all the things I thought were small, but now feel enormous. A key to understanding how love sometimes hides in silence, how pain sometimes speaks in gestures, how we miss the biggest truths, not because they were invisible, but because we never stopped to see. It left me with a question I couldn't escape. How much of my life had I actually lived, and how much had I simply passed through blind? The deeper I went into her words, the more it all made sense. But it was also too late to respond, too late to fix it, and that realization carved itself into me like a scar. If I had seen it earlier, everything could have been different. Every moment, every choice, every word I left unsaid. But maybe it's not too late to change what comes next. Maybe that's the point of this letter finding me now. Maybe that's why I'm here, and why you're here listening. I couldn't unsee it. Once the truth had taken shape, once her words echoed through the empty spaces of my memory, I realized I had been walking through my own life half awake, and now that I saw it all for what it was, I couldn't stop the flood. The weight was unbearable. It wasn't just that the letter was about me. It was that everything I had ignored, brushed aside, or misunderstood mattered, and it was too late to go back. There's a specific kind of pain that comes not from what happened, but from what didn't. The dor reprimida, the pain we keep locked away because we never had the courage, or the time, to face it. That letter had become a mirror, and what I saw wasn't just her heartbreak. I saw mine too. I saw every relationship that slowly crumbled because I didn't know how to listen. Every connection I let fade because I thought there was still time. I saw the silence I let stretch too long between me and my father before he passed. The apology I never gave my brother before he left the country. The friend I never called back. The love I let disappear without ever saying the words that needed to be said. Now I understood what the letter really was. It was a voice that had waited in silence. A segredo revelado through ink and paper, but it didn't feel like enough. I would have given anything to hear her say it out loud, to hold her hand while she did. But I missed it, and she knew I would. That's why she wrote it. She left it behind not because she couldn't say it, but because she believed I wouldn't hear it if she did. And maybe she was right. It's strange how a letter can feel louder than a scream, like a message that traveled through time just to arrive in the quietest moment. A letter that speaks when no one's around to listen. A whisper that aged in silence, waiting to be heard. That's what this felt like. A verdade dolorosa that demanded to be felt, even if it came too late to change what had already been broken. Have you ever lived with that kind of realization? That you were part of someone's story, but only found out after your chapter had already ended? The weight of that truth doesn't just sit on your chest. It lives inside your bloodstream. It follows you in your quiet moments. It sits in the room with you when no one else is there. It shows up in songs and smells and places you used to go, and it doesn't let you forget. I remembered a conversation we once had where she asked me what I thought people regret most when they die. I said, not chasing their dreams. She looked down, smiled faintly, and said, I think it's the words we never say. At the time, I thought it was just a poetic idea. Now I know it was her way of telling me she had words. Words she would never speak out loud. Words that would instead live in a letter I wasn't supposed to find until it was too late. And that's where I was now. Alone with words I couldn't answer, regrets I couldn't rewrite, and truths I could only carry. But in that ache, something else began to form. A question, quiet but persistent. If I missed that moment, how many others had I ignored? How many people around me were writing letters I wasn't reading? Because I wasn't listening. Because sometimes it takes one truth, one letter to make us see everything else. And even though I couldn't go back and change what had already been lost, there was something else. Something buried beneath the pain, the guilt, the silence. Something no one expected, and I'm going to show you. And then, I read it. Not just the first few lines like before, not just the scattered phrases that haunted me. I read the entire letter, every single word, and the moment I reached the end, something inside me broke. Or maybe it wasn't breaking at all. Maybe it was something opening. She had written it in a way only someone who knew you deeper than you knew yourself could. It wasn't angry. It wasn't bitter. It was full of honesty, gentleness, and a love so raw that I couldn't even breathe. She wrote about the things I never saw, the way she watched me fall apart slowly, but never said a word because she didn't think I'd listen. The way she forgave me for things I didn't even realize I'd done. She said she hoped that one day I'd understand, not because she wanted to be right, but because she wanted me to be whole. And in that moment, I realized something I never expected. This letter wasn't meant to hurt me. It was meant to free me. It was never just about what I missed. It was about what I could still find, what I could still become. There was a line near the end that stayed with me. She wrote, "Maybe you'll only read this when you're finally ready to stop surviving and start living." When you're tired of the silence and finally ready to hear who you really are. That was it. That was the truth that cracked everything wide open. The truth that gave me chills and peace at the same time. I had spent so many years surviving, working, pushing, pretending, but I had never really lived. Not the way she wanted me to, not the way I was meant to. And maybe you're here now hearing this story, not because it's mine, but because it's yours too. Maybe you've had your own letters, words unspoken, feelings buried, truths waiting to be uncovered. Maybe you've felt the weight of a vida marcada, the sting of a verdade dolorosa, the silence of a carta secreta that was never handed to you, but you felt it anyway. The truth is, we all have something we were meant to see, something that, once revealed, doesn't just change how we view our past, it transforms our future. You don't need a letter to begin again. What you need is a moment of truth, a moment like this. This is where the révélation becomes real, not just in my life, but in yours. Because the pain you carry, the questions that never stop echoing inside you, they're not the end of your story. They're the beginning of a new one. And that version of you, the one who stops living through regret and starts living through purpose, that version is still waiting to be written. And yes, faith plays a part in that. Whether you believe in God or the universe or something greater than yourself, I believe there are no accidents. This story, this moment, your presence here, it's all part of something divine. There's a reason you're watching this. There's a reason this letter, this story, this voice found its way to you today. Sometimes the answer isn't in what we're chasing. It's in what's been trying to reach us all along. And when you finally allow yourself to be still, to listen, to open, that's when the healing begins. That's when God moves. That's when clarity rushes in like light through an old window. And now, I want to ask something of you. If any part of this spoke to your soul, if you saw even a fragment of yourself in this journey, I want you to comment just 3 words. It touched me. Say it. Write it. Own it. Let it live here as your declaration that you're not ignoring your story anymore. You're ready. And if there was a moment, even a small one, where you felt seen in this video, tell me in the comments. What would your letter say? Who would it be to? What have you left unsaid? Your story matters. Your voice matters. And your next chapter starts now. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Because in the next video, she forgot me. But the letter remembered every detail. You're going to discover something I didn't have the courage to tell you today. Something that might change the way you think about love, memory, and the parts of us we try to leave behind. Keep watching. Keep feeling. Keep becoming. The rest of the story is waiting. If this story touched something deep inside you, if it stirred a memory or opened a part of your heart that's been quiet for too long, leave a like now. It might seem small, but that one click helps this message reach someone else who desperately needs to hear it. Share this video with someone who's carrying unspoken words, someone who's searching for answers they can't quite name. You never know how much of a difference one story can make. And don't forget to subscribe. The next video, she forgot me, but the letter remembered every detail, is something you don't want to miss. I promise there's more to this story. A piece that hasn't been told. A truth that's waiting to find you. Now I want to hear from you. What was too late for you? What moment? What word? What silence still echoes inside you? Drop it in the comments. Share it. Even if it's just a sentence. Your story matters. And I want to read every single one. May God walk with you through this journey of healing and rediscovery. You're not alone. Not anymore.